Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Curcio with Lisa's Stamp Studio. I've got the perfect card for you to send to a friend today, and it's going to include some watercoloring. But we're going to watercolor on a special surface, shimmery white cardstock, and you're going to be amazed at the stunning results. I'm going to present the card today in a little bit different fashion. I've really gussied it up. Here's a quick look at that card, and you are going to just love it when we're done. Don't forget I offer studio stamps in the mail, and you can find all the details under my online classes tab, which is over on my blog. You'll find the address on the screen. The next round is ready for you to order. Let's get over to the stamp table and let's get started. Now you can really see the sparkle. I love the combination of the coral and the black together. Before I get started on this card, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to really gussy it up with some accessories, but you do not have to do that. I like to take things just a step further, but at any point, I'm going to tell you, you can stop here, you can stop here. You can add as little or as much as you want and still get an absolutely stunning card. I'm beginning with a piece of basic black cardstock. This measures 5.5 by 8.5. And I'm just going to fold this in half, and I love using that bone folder for that nice crisp crease. I cut myself a piece of white cardstock, and this measures 4 by 5.25, and this piece is the piece I'm going to emboss with the large polka dot embossing folder. We're going to put our paper inside here, and we're going to close this up. I like to make sure I don't go all the way to the edge, so I make sure I have a pattern going all the way around. Using my Big Shot, on tab 1, we're going to put a clear mat on the bottom, and then the embossing folder, and then a clear mat on the top. And then all you have to do is simply just crank this through. When you open up the embossing folder, you're going to find that this side has the raised circle, and the other side, the circles are actually embedded, what I call de-embossing. Just for fun, I'm going to use this side. I'm going to start with the Calypso Coral ink pad. And I'm using this small splatter stamp, and this comes from the set Awesomely Artistic. There are a couple pieces in here that I'm going to use, including the word friend. So I am actually going to ink this up, but I don't want it really, really dark. So I'm going to stamp off a couple times to reduce the layer of ink. And I'm just going to create some splatter on this randomly on my card. I'm going to set that aside with the black, and now I'm bringing in a piece of shimmery white cardstock. Gosh, I wish you were here to see this in person. This paper is stunning. I'm going to use the basic black archival ink, and I'm using this beautiful flower image, and this is from a different set. This one is called Choose Happiness. I'm really liking to feature items in the annual catalog because you know it's going to be gone at the end of May when the new catalog comes out. So I want to make sure you don't overlook some of these great stamp sets. So I decided to mix a couple together today. I'm going to ink up my flower in the basic black ink. I'm going to stamp it on the shimmery white cardstock. I'm going to give this a few seconds to dry. I'm going to take the Calypso Coral ink pad again. This time I'm going to flip it upside down, and we made the back flexible. So you're going to squeeze, and when you do, ink is going to come inside the well of the ink pad. And this is great for watercoloring. Now the aqua painters, I love these. You just unscrew them, you put tap water down inside. This totally eliminates the need of a watercolor brush and a cup of water. A lot less mess too. So I'm going to take the cap off. I like to give it a little squeeze before I get started because two things. I want to make sure I don't have residual color on there. And number two, I don't want it soaking wet. I want it damp. Put my bristles together. I'm going to pick up some of this color, and I am very, very generously going to color this in. Now you're going to see I'm not being neat about it because you don't have to be. The beauty of the shimmery white cardstock is that it watercolors absolutely beautifully. And we are going to cut this image out, so if we go outside the lines a little bit, it's totally fine. Now, I'm going to go back over some areas and make them darker. And if you need more ink, like I do here, let me show you. Just close up your ink pad once again and give it a squeeze. Now, if you have the refills, you can just put a drop of that in here. But remember, it's very concentrated, so you're going to want to water it down over to the side. And then I'm just going to go back over this. I'm going to provide a little bit darker areas and lighter areas, just really random. Okay, now once you're happy with it, we're going to let it dry for just a minute before we begin to cut it out. But you're going to want to clean your brush. You're going to want to hold this over your Stampin' Scrub, and you're going to want to squeeze it till water comes through the bristles to rinse it. I don't ever recommend storing it dirty because you don't know what color it was in last, and then of course you'll have a mess if you go to use it. Before you cap it, I always recommend that you give it a little pinch so your bristles are nice and together. You don't ever want stray hairs. I know you're probably thinking you're going to fussy cut that. I am. There is no framelit for this, but it's okay because you know what? It only takes a few seconds. I mean, really, this is going to be less than a minute. Go ahead. I have a naysayer out there, I'm sure, who doesn't believe me. So you can go ahead and set your clock. And we're just going to go around the edges. Now, the best advice I can give you when you're cutting out images is don't cut right on the color line. Cut just outside of it. Now, you're going to have some white cardstock showing, or the shimmery white in this case, and that's really okay. The reason I let it dry a little bit before I begin to cut is because the paper is a bit more flexible and I don't want to rip it. So I just gave it a couple seconds to dry. And we're just about finished. So I told you under a minute. So now we have our flower, and again, I just wish you could see that shimmer. It's just beautiful. Now here's where I'm going to get a little fancy. Back on my white cardstock, I am going to add some stems, and I'm going to use the black ink one more time. This stem comes from the same stamp set, Choose Happiness. It's here. Now, I realize there's bumps in here because I've embossed it, and that's totally fine because I'm looking for a real whimsical, grungy look. I don't want anything perfect. On the back of this, I'm going to use some gold metallic thread. Now, if you don't like this, again, remember you can stop here, but I'm just adding a little bit more. I'm going to put a dimensional on the back, and I'm going to take off the paper backing. I'm going to slide this to the side. This is my gold metallic thread. I'm going to create some wide loops. So I'm going to start down here, and I'm going to wrap this around my hand numerous times. And when you get enough, you're just going to pull it off. And you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut the end. Okay? And then you're going to place it right over that dimensional. But you see what happened is I have a little bit of stray on either side. The beauty about this is now I can kind of fan it out a little bit. And I actually was able to tame it in one direction. So I've got it going exactly where I want it. I'm going to add a couple more dimensionals to the back just so this is good and balanced. Take off that paper backing. And then I'm going to position my flower. I'm going to be careful now to make sure that I don't go too far beyond the paper because I'm going to mount it. I want to make sure it's going to fit in the envelope. So I'm going to tip this a little bit, and I'm going to make sure I hide those raw ends of my stems, and I'm going to place that here. Now I'm going to mount this to the base of my card with my snail adhesive. So I'm going to put a little snail in the back. I'm a little bit more generous with my adhesive when I've embossed the paper because I want to make sure I get those bumps covered. That will go here on the front of my card. Now I don't ever rub from the front because I always have ink. So I turn it over and I rub from the back. That's just a good little tip for you to keep your cards clean. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a banner for the word friend. That's the sentiment I'm going to add to this card. I've cut myself a 1/2 inch by 2 1/4 inch piece of just white scrap cardstock. I'm going to ink up the word friend. Now remember, this comes from the Awesomely Artistic stamp set. I'm going back and forth between these two. And I'm going to stamp that right in the middle of my white cardstock. Now I want banner tips on the end. Now you can create those by hand, but I love my hexagon punch for that. So this area right here, this point, this is going to make your banner tip. Slide in your cardstock. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to visually want that point up the center of your paper and then just give it a punch. Look at that. I just love that you're going to get perfect banner tips every time. That is going to eventually go here. Look, I forgot the designer paper, but don't worry, I've got it. I already got it cut. It's not too late. Thank goodness. This is from the Everyday Chic Designer Series paper. This is literally a 1/2 inch by 5 1/4. All the dimensions for this project are going to be on my blog, so head over there. I almost forgot this. Again, you don't have to put it on there if you don't like it. So I'm going to put this near the edge. I'm going to leave a little bit of white paper showing. And then I have a piece, and this is a 1/4 inch by 5 1/4. And I took this from my scraps. This is a great thing for you to do. As your designer papers get used, you end up with lots of little pieces. This is from the Pretty Petals designer paper stack. And I am going to put a little adhesive on the back of this one as well. And that piece is going to go right up against this one. Remember, I'm adding extras to this card, so if you were happy with the simplicity in the beginning, you can stop at any time. All right, so now we've got that. Now let's add our banner. We're going to add a couple dimensionals to the back. There's my oops side, so we're going to put those here. Don't you love that every piece of paper has 2 sides, so you can just flip it over? I know I do. And that is going to go here. Again, you can stop, but I'm going to keep going. I'm using the Metallics assortment of sequins and my fine tip glue pen. This is a handy dandy pickup tool. Unfortunately, Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell it yet. You can find it on Amazon. This end is tacky, so it's able to pick up these small things without you having to fish through them. The fine tip glue is wonderful for sequins. Make sure you unscrew it from the white portion. I always tell you, don't squeeze. You just literally want to tap. So I'm going to put a sequin here, and I'm just literally tapping so some glue comes out. I'm going to put another one up here and another one down here. I know that might be difficult to see on the camera, but I'm going to get those sequins on there and you'll be able to see. So I'm using my pickup tool. I told you that was cool. I'm making sure that the rounded side is down. I find they stick better that way. And then I'm going to pick up another and place that one here. And then finally the one down here. And again, remember, this is all optional. You don't have to add those, but I like that little bit of shimmer. It picks up the metallic thread. Now I've got one more step, and again, you can stop here if you've had enough. Let's talk about capping this. Put your finger against the tip. There's a pin in the lid, and all you have to do is guide it down inside of there and twist. That pin is so that the glue doesn't clog. Love that genius design. Last but not least, it's going to be some glitter. And of course, it's going to be gold. So I'm using my 2-way glue pen. I'm pulling off the tip. I'm putting glue where I'm going to want my glitter. I keep my glitter in a Tupperware storage type container because it gives me more room to sprinkle without making a huge mess. And I am going to use a plastic spoon to put it right over the top, and I'm going to make sure I give this a really good beating because I want to make sure that anything that's statically stuck will come off so it just stays where I put it. The card is done. I'm satisfied with all that shimmer because that's how much I love sparkle. So here's today's card. Here's the one I originally made. No two are ever going to be alike. And remember, you can make it as fancy or as simple as you want. I am so glad that you joined me. Head over to my blog for all the cutting dimensions and make sure you shop in my online store where I'm going to give you an exclusive featured project PDF tutorial for free, as well as frequent buyer points. Thank you so much for your business, and I hope you guys have a great day. See you next time.